This is my response to Avi Loeb on the Shawn Ryan show. Shawn Ryan has the best podcast, in my opinion, even better than Joe Rogan. On the podcast he uploaded today with Avi Loeb, the problem with religion getting in the way of science and facts, like in the case of Avi Loeb, he's a religious Darwinist or a religious atheist. That's referring to the religion of atheism. The problem with the religion of atheism or the religion of Darwinism is that it doesn't allow scientists to acknowledge reality whenever reality points to a first cause. That first cause being, of course, something that is obviously intelligent by all the evidence everywhere. I mean, if you look at everything that exists, you see design everywhere. You see incredibly intelligent design, planning. You see mathematics everywhere. As a matter of fact, there is no place in reality where mathematics doesn't exist. Have you ever considered that? There is no place in reality where mathematics doesn't exist. There is no place in reality where order doesn't exist. You see order everywhere. As a matter of fact, I asked a mathematician friend of mine if randomness exists. He says, no, randomness doesn't exist. There's different arguments about that, but the most intelligent people I know, when I ask them, and those that are mathematicians and physicists, they say, what we have as far as randomness is concerned is pseudo-randomness, or random-like behavior, but we don't actually find true randomness. So you see order everywhere, you see design everywhere. Mathematics everywhere is omnipresent. Omnipresent? It sounds like a religious term. Religion is used towards people who believe in a first cause, meaning that God created everything rather than nothing created everything. But by pointing to the Big Bang and deferring things, Avi actually makes himself far more religious. So what he believes is that there is a Big Bang. Before the Big Bang, what is there? I don't know. So Shawn Ryan, you cannot let scientists on your show that are religious Darwinists, religious atheists, get away by claiming they don't know this and they don't know that, and they'll just say, I don't know, period, and just pause. And you're like, oh, I love this guy so much because he's such an intelligent scientist, and yet he's so humble. And by that humility, because he just admits freely that he doesn't know things, it makes you feel like he's just even more intelligent, and he's more honest, and he knows more than he really does, which none of that is true. The reality is scientists like Avi Loeb and a million other religious atheists that are strict followers of the religion of atheism, they refer to I don't know whenever anything points to a higher intelligence, a first cause, a creator, God who created everything. When in reality, like they talk about the aliens, that's how God actually is. So when they're saying like somebody planted us here, some higher intelligence, well, yes, there's a higher intelligence, and yes, somebody planted or created us here. Somebody designed all this, and like Richard Dawkins says, it looks like there's complexity and like there's a creator, or there's like a inventor, there's a master architect, there's a master mathematician who made all this or designed it. We see evidence of design. Everywhere you go, you see evidence of design. Oh, but we can't think of a designer. Oh, no, because our religion of atheism will crumble. Ah! It's really that sick. That's why I'm exaggerating, why I'm posturing like this, because it's that crazy, and it's very difficult to listen to somebody like a Avi Loeb or a Richard Dawkins, because they're so fearful of going down that road of talking about a first cause, which, of course, they know the most elementary science that everything has a first cause. There's not something that exists, that self-exists out of nothing. Whoa! Unless it was a supernatural thing, because then it doesn't have to follow natural law. Oh, the supernatural. You mean like a self-existent God? Oh, well, let's follow that just for a second, because I'm not afraid, because I'm not as unintelligent as Avi Loeb or Richard Dawkins. Because I can think, and I'm not afraid to think about that. So let's think about that for a minute. This God, creator, first cause, ultimate architect, designer, mathematician, and engineer of the universe, whatever you feel better. Does it make you feel better? Because those would all be true, right? Being that there's a designer, because there's a design, he's the designer, the creator, the engineer, the mathematician that orchestrated, that originated all of reality, all of the universe. And that particular being has the power, as you can see his intelligence everywhere. Like have you ever looked at mathematics, open your eyes and see where it leads you? And there's nowhere where it doesn't lead you, because it's everywhere. Incredible mathematics is in everything. Have you considered all life forms don't have any straight lines? Like the human body, the most incredible life form, has no straight lines in its physical shape. It has wildly complex ellipses and curves. Now you're getting really into complicated mathematics to mathematically articulate and communicate all those curves and all those shapes and designs, right? So wherever you want to go, everywhere you go, you see design, you see intelligence, you see complexity, you see even symmetry and beauty in many, many places. If not, you probably find it everywhere if you understand what math is and you actually look for it that way. So, what we know by all those obvious observations that Avi Loeb and Richard Dawkins and the million other people just like them that are staunch, extremely religious atheists, and of course all their admirers all around the world, hundreds of millions of people. What happens is, if you're one of them, you can't get close to this. But I could get close to it, so let's go down that road. This would have to be a first cause. This God has to be extremely intelligent, transcendently intelligent. How intelligent? So intelligent that this being, this God, this creator, this first cause, this divine architect of not only the universe, but all of reality, in his mind, he could grasp all of mathematics that exists in the entire reality. Simultaneously, he could hold in his mind. Imagine that. Wow, we're talking about something amazing here. Something that is worthy of creating reality in all of our universe and everything. Okay? So he's able to hold, conceive all of mathematics, every mathematical expression that, by the way, expresses everything that exists in all of reality simultaneously. That's the type of intelligence we're talking about. Then how much power does he have? Well, he'd have the power to transcend the natural. So let's talk about the evidence of the ability. How could that exist? Like, how could it be possible for something, someone, a being, a God, to transcend the physical? Well, how about this one? For those like Avi Loeb and Richard Dawkins and all of their hundreds of millions of followers of religious atheism. By the way, religion is something that you just kind of imagine or hope that somehow it connects you to something higher than yourself. Like atheism. Like somehow I'll be smarter if I'm an atheist. or somehow I could connect to God if I make up a religion and I follow some kind of rules. So religion is worthless. As a matter of fact, the only one and true God, one of the tests for him would be that he transcends religion itself. Anyway, let's go back to the material part. So here's the evidence that this God would have to transcend the material. Everything that is material is made out of immaterial. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about that? So when you zoom in on the matter, you don't just get atoms and a nucleus, an electron orbits around that. You zoom in more and you find space between the protons and neutrons and the electrons. And you find out that all of those are just charges. They're immaterial. There's no physical substance to them. So we know that there exists the reality of transcending the material. I can't do it, but we can observe that all of material is made out of immaterial. So the immaterial exists. We already know that. So this God, designer, architect, master mathematician of reality has to have the power to be able to transcend the material, because that's the whole point. If he's the first cause of all material, then he's dwelling or interacting, working, creating, designing, calculating his math within that realm that transcends the material, because he's the first cause, right? We're assuming that for those of you that are religious atheists. I already know, because I just observed the obvious. Everything I'm explaining is completely logical and provable. So he transcends the material. That's amazing power. He's transcendent. That means literally definition of supernatural, right? Above what's natural. Okay, let's go to another one. Time is sequence. Time, there's no place where time doesn't exist. Every place, in reality, there is time. There's also math, as I said earlier. And these would be actual expressions of this grand inventor, creator, designer, architect, mathematician. Okay, so now you could start getting an image of who he is. He's not religion. Have you figured that out yet? No man-made religion could contain him in their vain imaginations, because that's what religion is. It's like, I know what. Hey, Bob and Fred and Joe. Hey, Mark and Sally. Let's make up a religion. Hey, that's a great idea. We could have people give us money. We can make up a set of rules, and we could tell people that they could transcend the natural if they just follow our religion. Do you think this grand master, creator, architect, mathematician, all-powerful being that's able to transcend the natural would fit inside your religion? Let's bring up Terence Tao and his work in number theory. When you approach prime numbers that get so big, there's like a threshold. Just like when you go out in space, you can only go so far. And everywhere we go in science, we're limited because we are operating in the natural. We end up going against this threshold that you might call like a God threshold, that we can't get beyond a certain point. Guess what that certain point is? It's the transition between the natural and the spiritual, the natural and the supernatural. Our minds don't live inside of our brains. I even talked to neuroscience students that are followers of the religion of atheism. And guess what? They as well admit that high-functioning mind function, like reasoning, pondering, logic, information science, doesn't exist inside the brain. The only thing that they could discern inside the brain is lower-level bodily functions of anatomy and physiology of the neurological system. So if somebody hits my finger with a hammer and I yell, ouch, they could see some kind of brainwave function going on, a reaction there. But inside this brain that's made out of fat and water mostly, the pondering, the reasoning, the logic doesn't exist. Let me make the point further in a way that you cannot deny. A monarch butterfly travels over 3,000 miles. The very first time they travel to their mating ground, having never been there before. How big is the monarch butterfly's brain? Really tiny. Really, really tiny. Not only is the flight ability, the compute and memory power not inside that brain of the monarch butterfly, because you could separate out that brain of the monarch butterfly out as thin as you want and look and look and look, and you'll never find that compute power. You'll never find that memory power. How about navigation? Now it gets wildly complex. Imagine the little butterfly tossed around as he's flying around by the wind. He keeps flying and flying. How does he know how to get there? How does he know how to get there? What kind of navigation is that? That would take a master. That means a being that has capacity of the mathematics. For those of you who understand how complex flight is for that little butterfly, how complex navigation is over 3,000 miles, constantly course correcting as he's tossed to and fro and around about by winds, and yet he makes it to the place, and he's never been there before. So we're getting into information science. Where does that information come from? Again, the atheist scientist, an atheist scientist by definition is somebody that's so extremely religious. There's nobody more religious on earth. They talk about blind belief. That's what they have. Blind belief because there's no evidence for their beliefs. Whenever they're confronted by reality, like I just gave a few examples of, they say, well, we don't know. We don't know. Well, we can know, again, what I said earlier, we can know that this is math. We know that the functioning of and the flight and the navigation of this monarch butterfly. We know that information science, we know that logic itself, and all these things that, by the way, exist in our mind, but not in our brain. The mind has to be something immaterial, because logic and information science itself is immaterial. It's not material. It's not existing up there. There's no numbers inside your brain. All those things have to exist by a few things that we have absolute proof of, and that is they're consistent with mathematics and mathematical observations. They're consistent with the fact that these things are immaterial, that you cannot find them anywhere. They're consistent with science and first cause, that all these things have to have a cause, and it's not nothing. Everybody knows that everything doesn't come from nothing. So, again, you want to know that God? Contemplate who this God, who this master creator, this creator of all of reality and all the universe is. He would be self-existent, because no material or lower thing could create him. He also would be incredibly intelligent, being able to hold all, completely, the entirety of mathematics exhausted in his mind at once. That's the kind of intelligence we're talking about here. So, going back to my reference to Terence Tao and number theory, imagine Terence Tao talking to this God, and he finds out, hey, this makes sense. I know this is actually God. And you know why? Because this God would be able to have all prime numbers. Yeah, eternally, right? Eternity is everywhere. The prime numbers just keep going. And space seems to keep going. So, Avi Loeb, instead of assuming that it's arrogant for us to believe that we're the center, why don't you just look at the evidence and you see, there we are at the center of the galaxy, and it looks like we're even at the center of all of the universe. that looks just like it would look if God created us and wanted us to know that we're really special and that he loves us beyond our imagination, our wildest dreams. He thinks so highly of us that he would do just that. I remember in the Bible it says that we are the apple of his eye. A master architect, an exhaustively, eternally intelligent mathematician, the kind of being that it would take to create all of reality in the universe, and he would think so highly of us. Yes, Avi Loeb, he loves you so much. Yes, Charles Darwin. Yes, Richard Dawkins. And Shawn Ryan, I love your show. He loves you and me and all the people that he made in his own image. That means we're like him. We're little tiny creators. We mimic our God. We create things. We think in terms of math. We do all these things that copy our Father, our Creator. All these things are evidence. Everything is evidence. Even if you listen to your conscience for once, and your conscience tells you, yes, there is a God. Yes, there is right and wrong. Yes, there is good and evil. And yes, there is something higher. And he loves you that much that he made it unmistakable so that he knew. And someday we keep on inventing and building upon our knowledge, and we get telescopes and we find out that we're at the center of the universe. We're the center of his mind. He loves us that much. So much that when we broke because of our rebellious ways, our destruction, our destructive ways against ourselves and others, in such an extreme way that we do evil and wickedness, that we would need forgiveness, and that he would come in a miracle, an extraterrestrial, because he's not bound by this terrestrial body called Earth. He came from heaven, was born into Mary, a virgin, a miracle there, overcame death, another miracle. When he was crucified, he was resurrected, just so he could redeem us, because we're imperfect, we can never stand in his presence. But he loves us so much, he didn't leave us in that fallen state. He redeemed us, he saved us. He rescued us so that we could live someday with him if we only believe and trust in him. It's amazing. By listening to this video of me, who am just a guy that just can follow some logical thought, anybody could do that. This video is to be a message that stop atheistic religion of denying every time you start to look or think in your conscience that there's a God, there's a creator, there's a master architect and an engineer and a mathematician that designed and calculated and made all these things, that he's that amazing, that powerful, that you just say, I don't know, we can't know. And oh, don't you feel so good that you're so smart because you're so humble, you admit you don't know? Just follow the same basic science. Follow the laws of thermodynamics. Follow all mathematical laws. Because this real and only God that transcends all religion and transcends the natural, he can be tested by everything. You could throw all science at him, all questioning, and all of mathematics. And yes, his existence is not only provable, but there's nothing that doesn't exist in all of reality that's not proof of him. Or the reverse way to say that is, everything that exists in all of reality is indeed proof in this one true God that actually created everything. Not your religion. Stop. It's not your religion. It's this amazing supernatural master mathematician, architect, designer, and creator. That's the one. Yeah, get to know him.